All right, everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today, we're going to focus on something that's, well, it's a little unnerving, especially for our Canadian listeners. We're talking about the U.S. economy and how some of the recent changes, well, they might end up impacting those north of the border more than they bargained for.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Things are shifting. And it's important for Canadians to understand what's coming, what it means for their day-to-day, their wallets, their future.
Right, exactly. So let's try to unpack this a bit. We're seeing some major developments down in the U.S. And it's not just the typical, oh yeah, our economies are linked kind of thing. It's this time it feels different. Like the ripple effects could be, well, stronger, more intense for Canadians.
Absolutely. The US Federal Reserve, their central bank, they've been hiking up interest rates. And they've been doing it aggressively, trying to combat inflation. And normally, Canada just kind of follows their lead.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's usually how it goes.
Yeah. Exactly. But here's the thing. This time, the Bank of Canada they're holding back. And that's creating a very unique situation.
Okay, wait. So why wouldn't Canada just follow along like usual? What's different this time?
Well, there are a few things at play. First, the Bank of Canada, they're worried that raising rates too fast, it could actually trigger a recession here in Canada. And on top of that, they're also seeing some signs that inflation might be, cooling off a bit faster here than it is in the US.
So it's like they're trying to walk a tightrope, keep inflation in check, but also try to avoid a recession.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance. And this is where things get, really interesting for Canadians. This difference in interest rates, it's putting downward pressure on the Canadian dollar.
Okay, so our money is worth less compared to the US dollar. But what does that actually mean? Like for me, for everyday life, what does that look like?
Well, think about it this way. Anything you buy from the US, it's going to instantly become more expensive. We're talking gas, groceries, electronics, even those cross-border shopping trips. They're going to take a much bigger bite out of your budget.
Ouch. Yeah, I can definitely see that being a problem. What else? What are some other ways this might affect things?
Travel. Think about, planning a trip to Disney World or maybe a shopping spree in New York. Be prepared to shell out a lot more of those Canadian dollars.
So vacations are getting pricier too.
Yeah.
What about businesses? How does all this affect them?
Well, Canadian businesses, those that rely on importing goods from the U.S., they're also going to feel the squeeze. Their costs are going up, and they'll probably have to pass those costs on to consumers, which just means even higher prices for everyone.
Right, it's like a chain reaction. It seems like this difference in interest rates it's a double-edged sword. Trying to protect the Canadian economy on one hand, but on the other hand, it's causing some real pain for people and businesses.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a balancing act, that's for sure. And it really highlights how closely the Canadian economy is tied to what's happening in the U.S. And there's another factor adding to all this. The strong U.S. dollar, it's attracting Canadian investors.
Wait, so they're taking their money out of Canada and investing it in the U.S.?
Exactly. See, the higher interest rates in the U.S., they offer better returns. So for Canadian investors, it's like a safer bet. But then this further weakens the Canadian dollar, and it creates this kind of, it's almost a vicious cycle.
Wow, so it's like a domino effect. Canadian money flowing south, the loonies getting weaker,
Wow.
and prices are climbing higher and higher. It feels like, I don't know, like we're caught in some kind of economic riptide.
Yeah, it's definitely a cause for concern. And it's not just about these immediate impacts, the prices, the dollar. This situation, it has longer term implications for the Canadian economy.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are we looking at down the line if this keeps up?
Well, one of the biggest worries is that it could stifle investment in Canada. If the US dollar stays strong and the Canadian dollar stays weak, businesses might hesitate to invest here. They might look to the US where their money will go further.
So we could see slower economic growth,
Mm.
maybe even job losses if businesses aren't investing here.
It's a real possibility. And it's not just foreign investment that could be affected. Canadian businesses, too, they might hold back, put their expansion plans on hold or even hesitate to hire new people, especially if they're worried about the overall economic outlook.
So this isn't just about paying a bit more for a vacation. This could have a ripple effect across the entire Canadian economy.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that some sectors are going to be hit harder than others. Industries that rely heavily on exporting to the U.S., like manufacturing, forestry, they're likely to feel the pinch.
Right, because a weaker Canadian dollar makes our exports more expensive.
Hmm.
So for U.S. buyers, it's like we become less competitive, What about those industries that rely on imports, though?
Well, they're going to face higher costs, which, as we talked about, means higher prices for consumers. Think about things like electronics, clothing, even food. All those prices could keep climbing if the Canadian dollar stays weak.
So no matter how you look at it, it seems like Canadians are in for a tough time.
It's definitely a challenging situation, but believe it or not, there are some potential bright spots.
Really. Tell me more. Give me some hope here.
Okay, well, the weaker Canadian dollar, it could actually be good for tourism. A cheaper dollar makes Canada a more attractive destination, especially for international travelers, those coming from the US. So we could see an increase in tourism revenue, and that would be a welcome boost to the economy.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's one upside at least.
Yeah.
Anything else? Well, the Bank of Canada's decision to hold back on raising those interest rates, it might actually help prevent a recession in Canada. They're trying to, like we said, to find that sweet spot, fighting inflation without completely stalling economic growth. Right, it's a high-stakes game for sure. But what about everyday Canadians? What can we do? What can we do to protect ourselves during all this uncertainty?
That's the million-dollar question. And the key is to be proactive. Take steps to mitigate those potential risks.
Okay, so give us the playbook. What are some things we can do?
First things first, review your budget. Take a good, hard look at your spending and see where you can cut back. Even small adjustments can make a big difference when prices are going up like this.
So tighten the belt, be mindful of where the money's going.
Exactly. And if you have any debt, especially anything with a variable interest rate, like a line of credit or a mortgage, now is the time to figure out how to manage it. Interest rates are probably going to keep rising, so minimizing that debt is essential.
Yeah, paying down debt now could save a lot of money in the long run.
Exactly. And another thing to think about, if you're planning any big purchases, especially anything that involves US dollars, you might want to, rethink the timing. The weak Canadian dollar could make those purchases a lot more expensive than you planned.
So maybe hold off on that dream vacation for a bit.
It might be wise. And more broadly, this is a good time to focus on your financial literacy. The more you understand about economics and personal finance, the better you'll be able to make good decisions, especially in uncertain times like these.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money.
Absolutely. Stay informed, stay proactive, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Financial professionals can offer guidance if you need it.
Solid advice. This might all feel a bit overwhelming, but with the right information, with a proactive approach, Canadians can weather this storm right. We're a resilient bunch.
We are. And remember, even in challenging times, there are always opportunities.
I like that. So it's a bit of a wake-up call for Canadians. We can't just assume that what's happening in the U.S. won't affect us. Our economies are just too intertwined.
Absolutely. I think this situation really highlights the need for Canadians to be more proactive about their finances. We can't just ride the waves. We need to be prepared for the unexpected.
So we've talked about the challenges, the potential risks, but let's shift gears a bit. What can be done? Are there solutions, strategies that could help, lessen these negative impacts?
There are always options. On a government level, they could look at policies that encourage investment in Canada, even with the weaker dollar. Things like tax incentives, infrastructure projects, anything that makes Canada a more attractive place to do business.
So making Canada more competitive, even with the currency disadvantage. What about individual Canadians? Besides budgeting and managing debt, are there other things we can do?
This might sound a little counterintuitive, but consider diversifying your investments. Don't put all your eggs in the Canadian basket. Explore international markets, maybe even look into U.S. investments, since their dollar is doing so well.
Interesting. So take advantage of the strong U.S. dollar in a way.
Right.
Even though it's hurting us on the consumer side?
Exactly. And another thing, this is a perfect time to focus on upskilling. Professional development. A strong skill set is valuable no matter what the economy is doing. Invest in yourself, make yourself more marketable, and you'll be in a much better position to handle whatever comes next.
Take control of your own career. Don't let the economy dictate your future.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts for our listeners today?
I think the biggest takeaway here is, knowledge is power. Don't bury your head in the sand. Understand what's happening in the economy, both globally and here at home. Stay informed, stay engaged, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be to navigate all of this.
Well said. This has been a I'd say a sobering, but also a very insightful deep dive. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure. It's important to have these conversations to equip ourselves with the knowledge to make good decisions.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on on this roller coaster ride through the world of economics. Remember, it's not all doom and gloom. There are things you can do to protect yourself, even thrive during these uncertain times. Stay informed, stay proactive, and most importantly, stay engaged. We're all in this together. Until next time, stay curious.
Oh, Canada, we're stuck in a loop, caught between Justin's smile and Donald's Twitter poop. Our dollar's sinking, our patience too. Thanks for the ride, it's been a zoo. Well, the US hikes rates like it's a Wall Street party, and Canada's watching, trying not to be tardy. But hey, Justin, Donald, hats off to you. Your policies mess with my life without asking me. Through more gas, I'm broke. Vacation's a concept, a cruel little joke. But don't worry, you're doing great, I'm sure, while I'm here calculating how much ramen I can endure. Stay curious, stay wise through these economic goodbyes. Justin, Donald, thanks a ton. Your global chess game's so much fun. The loonie's weak, the dollar's strong. Why does this feel like a breakup song? Tourism's booming, yay, the bright side. But my wallet's empty, can I hitch a ride? My dreams are stalling, and every purchase feels appalling. But hey, Justin, at least you're polite, while Donald tweets nonsense all through the night. Imports are pricey, exports are rough. But hey, politicians, isn't this enough? You play your games, we foot the bill. Could you maybe just chill? Stay wise while inflation eats my fries. Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Trump, your policies put my wallet in a slump. Imports are pricey, exports are rough. But hey, politicians, isn't this enough? You play your games, we foot the bill. Could you maybe just chill? Resilient, it's true, but this loony dive's got us all feeling blue. So thanks, dear leaders, for this great stress test. Signed, your citizens who deserve some rest.